again, ladies, gentlemen, and non-binary friends, and welcome back to another week of Gaming Nest news here on Nest HQ. It's Joker once again with the host here for the show. We've got a little bit of information, couple news pieces coming up here this week, or a couple pieces that you'll want to take a look at. First off, we're going to send it over to the boys over at Project Supervillain, as they've got some pretty big news on EA and their exclusivity license over the Star Wars franchise for the video game. So Arc Drifter, Kill Boss, take it away, guys.
Thanks, Joker. We're your hosts from Project Supervillain. I'm Arc Drifter.
I'm Kill Boss.
And we're back here with another episode of GNN. Today we've come with some pretty interesting news regarding the EA Lucasfilms partnership and the exclusivity rights to their games. So we're going to get into that right now.
This news is decent. EA is losing their exclusivity rights for the Star Wars franchise, and that's a good thing all around. Not only does it create awesome competition in the gaming market, which we sorely need right now, it's going to open the door for a lot of better publishers, ones with a better reputation, to get their hands on the license and show us what they can really do when they actually give a shit.
We could see a resurgence of really decent Star Wars games, much like we did 10 years ago. So we've already seen a couple publishers say that they're going to be taking the reins on some of these Lucasfilms IPs. So the first one we saw was Bethesda over on their Twitter, stating that they're going to be doing something with the Indiana Jones franchise, which we haven't seen an Indiana Jones game since like the Lego Indiana Jones games on the 360 and shit. So this is going to be hopefully a really cool thing, but it is also going to be made by Machine Games, so we are kind of speculating that it might not be perfect, because the last game was Youngblood Wolfenstein. So
yeah, they got two good games in there for sure, but like Youngblood was just kind of like, I don't know about that one. Yeah. But I know that they know shooters, so if this is going to be a shooter of some type, I do have faith that they can do it the right way. Just Todd Howard has to not put his hands all over the project.
That'd be cool.
It should be okay. That? But he's the executive producer, so
we'll see. So yeah, that could be really cool. I can't imagine a first-person Indiana Jones game.
That'd be weird, yeah. That would be weird. It's probably going to be third person, just because that's how it is.
Yeah, with the rope and everything. I think it'd be cool to see a first-person Indiana Jones game, but anyways, this is all speculation. The other publisher that did say they're going to do something with the Star Wars franchises was Ubisoft. So, again, we're kind of holding our breath and not sure how that one's going to turn out, because Ubisoft is kind of a mixed bag right now with their games. Sometimes they're amazing and sometimes they're not so great.
Yeah, they did say it was going to be open world, and it's surprise, surprise, but we'll see what happens there, too. It's not like Ubisoft's, terrible at making games. I have faith they can produce something at least pretty fun.
Assassin's Creed Star Wars.
Yeah, exactly. There you go. So, that's everything that we know officially at the moment. We're keeping our ears close to the ground and listening for any updates. This is one that we definitely all want to pay attention to, especially if you're a longtime Star Wars fan and you enjoy those kind of games. Prepare yourself to see some much more exciting games, a different variety of them. It's really going to be cool to see what comes up in the next few years. Now, just to mention, this isn't until 2023, so nothing's happening in the next 2 years. But right now, wait a couple years, and you're probably going to start seeing some really awesome Star Wars games come out from a variety of publishers. It's really exciting.
Yeah, we could see games of the likes of Knights of the Old Republic and Jedi Academy come back. There's just so many routes and possibilities that could be taken here. Imagine more games where you're actually playing as a Jedi and not just running around like Battlefront with a clone. I never really liked that stuff personally. I know other people do, but I want more stuff like Jedi Fallen Order. And I mean, the cool thing is EA is still going to have the ability to continue that series, because that was one of their better ones.
Yeah.
So we'll get to see a sequel for Fallen Order, but we're also going to see some other new possibilities here. So even just the Ubisoft game, that could play a completely different game compared to Jedi Fallen Order, right? If it's got that Ubisoft formula, it just could be completely different, but it also could be really bland, because we know what Ubisoft games are. They're always the same formula. So I'm kind of hoping that's not what it is, but we'll see.
So as a lot of you would know, Star Wars has a massive expanded universe outside of the films. There is plenty of material for any publisher to get their hands on there and work on something that we might have never seen before. It would be really cool, too, if they maybe gave us a perspective from a bounty hunter or something like that. The Mandalorian style kind of game where, open world taking on bounties and hunting down space criminals and stuff like that, and getting to customize your bounty hunter. Not even that you just have to look like Boba Fett, but like somebody else,
Yeah, your own bounty hunter where you just just explore the Star Wars universe, which is, vast, and there's lots of content that could be put into a video game there. As Eric said, the expanded universe is very vast, and there's just so much they could do with it. Not only with bounty hunters, but again, with more Jedi content. You could be a Sith Lord, like we saw back in the day, Star Wars Force Unleashed. That was an amazing hack and slash.
That was fun. Yeah.
I'd like to see something like that again. Like something a little more free flowing. Like Jedi Fallen Order was fun, but it was very like Dark Souls-esque, right? So it was more calculated. I'd like to see a game where you could just run through and just destroy everything as a Jedi or a Sith. That'd be really cool again to see something like that.
Star Wars and Devil May Cry.
Something like that with like excellent music. There's so many possibilities in this route.
I know, it's nice because now EA isn't the only one holding the license hostage. We can actually speculate on some of this stuff and not feel like complete morons for thinking about it now, because it's like, hey, look, it's not just EA anymore.
Yeah, past 2023, we could actually see some really cool games, and it's so exciting. So honestly, that's pretty much all the news we've got for you guys this week. All the speculation we can really think of. You guys get the idea, though. The possibilities are endless in the Star Wars universe, and even the other Lucasfilms franchises like Indiana Jones. So I'm just really excited. This is really amazing news for gamers and just the internet alike. So yeah.
Everybody rejoice!
Woo! We'll see you guys next week. See ya.
Peace out.
Yo, Killboss, make sure you stay awake there, man, because that is some pretty big news. Some great things to be on the lookout if you are a fan of the Star Wars franchise and the video games that have been released for the franchise. I'm really excited to see what this could do to expand the video game horizons there for the Star Wars games, and what that means there for everybody in the Star Wars galaxy, so to speak. I really hope we get to see more of the expanded universe and things not related to the main movies and TV shows that we've seen. So good stuff there, Project Supervillain. Thanks for keeping an eye out on that for us. We're going to shift it over next here to Commissioner David. He's got another movie review, this time in preparation for the new release of Hitman 3 coming out here in 2021. David's going to take a look at the 2007 release of the original Hitman movie. So, Commish, floor is yours.
Welcome to another review of video game movies. I am the Commissioner here to bring you a somewhat timely review on the Hitman movies from 2007 and 2015. If you're not familiar, Hitman is a long-running game series spanning from back to 2000 and still running to this day. I'm specifically doing this review as Hitman 3 is just around the corner, and I'm excited to start playing that as soon as it hits, because this franchise has always been one of my favorites. If you're not familiar and you're wondering why I love this game so much, it has to do with the game's structure. It was one of the few objective-based games that allowed you to complete that objective in any way that you see fit. Most of the times it involved assassinating a target by means of looking like an accident, or if you wanted to, an all-out gunfight. The player was never really limited, and the scale of the levels were always massive, especially for their times. Hitman was a game centered around the player, not just a linear storyline. However, that said, their stories were never the game's strong suit, as they were usually loosely strung together until Hitman Absolution came out, but I'll talk a little bit about that later, considering the first movie we're going to be talking about is going to be Hitman from 2007. Now, I'm going to be kind of criticizing it based on the games that were around before then, rather than talking about it as for the games that were in the future, because obviously that source material wasn't around. But right off the bat, I was surprised they chose Timothy Olyphant to play Agent 47, or Hitman, because he never really came off very Hitman-like to me. Of course, the voice actor himself actually looks like Agent 47, which is also very interesting that they haven't tapped him. And even in this movie, there were a lot of people that looked a little bit more like Agent 47 than Timothy Olyphant did. But that being said, it took me a little bit of viewing after watching it a few times to really kind of start realizing that he was actually an excellent choice. Agent 47 is not a very social person. In fact, he is one of the most boring characters in terms of development and personality. But that's what he's supposed to be. He's a blank slate. He's a contract killer who is extremely effective because he doesn't share the human traits that you and me would possibly have. And Timothy Olyphant himself has a particular way of acting. His characters basically are a bit more wooden.
Shut up. Every bully I ever met can't shut his fucking mouth.
Think in terms of Dirty Harry meets the Terminator. And that, to me, is Agent 47. Agent 47 is wooden. He is not exactly somebody that you'd want to be friends with. In that mind frame, let's talk about the movie itself. And I promise not to spoil anything here, but I'll give you some details. Basically, Agent 47, who I'll call 47 from now on, works for the organization and is still handled by Diana Burnwood as he is in the game. 47 assassinates an African warlord, which prompts an Interpol agent and his partner to pursue him for reasons that aren't really established other than this obsessive need to capture him. This eventually sends the agents to Russia, where, again, this is not really explained, but they have some sort of jurisdiction to search for him there. It's kind of at this point I realized how convoluted this movie was going to be with no explanations as to why things were the way they were. Because in real life, Interpol is not some world police and doesn't actually have agents, and they don't actually conduct any arrests. I guess it's not a big deal if you don't know that, but it really doesn't make sense if you do. Anyways, Agent 47 is contracted to kill the president of Russia, and then he is told to kill a woman, played by the gorgeous Olga Kurylenko, who was actually the Bond girl in Quantum of Solace. Anyways, she was reportedly a witness to his crimes, and that's where the plot really begins. Overall, it's kind of a convoluted story that seems to try and be all conspiracy-like, but because the movie is trying to pack so much all in at one time, it's not really that interesting and doesn't really make much sense. In case you haven't noticed, there's kind of a theme here with the not making sense. In regards to the story, though, it feels like this would have been a decent series that you could stream. It really needs to be fleshed out more and given some breathing room because it could be an interesting plot. I've watched this a couple times and I don't really understand it. That's the best way for me to explain it because it just doesn't have that room to grow and become a viable plot. As for the translation of the game to movie, it's alright. I think there are more nods to the game than you would expect. Playing the previous games, you will notice them, but just for an example, you might remember the asylum level and the hotel level, which are kind of combined here in one chapter, which was kind of cool. 47 does some clothes changes as well, disguises, which is good, but overall I don't think 47 is a good main character to follow in terms of a whole plot, because we're not playing him. Now, if he was the villain, I think that would make for a much better movie, because let's be honest, we play 47 not as particularly he might play himself, but we're basically saying just how many body bags the guards will drag back to their security stations. There's also this kind of weird humanization of 47 in the film where it's like they knew he was not very likable character in terms of personality because he isn't really supposed to have one. They drop some humanizing scenes which I just don't think work in terms of 47, and I'll applaud them for keeping him pretty stone cold, though, in one particular scene.
I'm June, and you are? This is where you tell me your name.
Excuse me.
Timothy Olyphant, I feel, had a hard job getting somebody so disconnected and cold, all while balancing ability to act almost human. So you kind of get this weird emotional side of 47 in the movie that you wouldn't get in the game. Because, as I said before, 47 isn't really somebody you want to be friends with.
But don't look. I was running out of oxygen in there.
Don't be dramatic.
Dramatic?
I got rid of the body.
I've been there for hours.
I brought you breakfast.
The music is fairly important because for all of us that have actually played the games, we're very familiar with the music done by Jesper Kyd. It's iconic, it's dark, it's cinematic, it's epic. Something that kind of happens in this movie, but it's just not Jesper. I don't have any issues with the soundtrack. It seemed to work for the movie, so I don't have too much to say about it. Action scenes were pretty good, although this was weird because there was this katana scene that doesn't really have anything to do with the game. I mean, unless you include that stupid Japanese fortress level, Katsuyama Castle in Hitman 2, it's just sort of misplaced. It's cool that it's there, but it doesn't really translate from the game. There's also some of the most non-Hitman-like sequences that are just pure insanity. Silent Assassin, clearly not achieved. On a positive note, though, I can say they do a great nod to the game at one point by having 47 plan out one of his target's assassinations. And for a moment, you kind of feel like it's close to the source material. Just for a moment, though. One very big problem I have with the movie is how drab it looks. There's really no color to it, and I think that they were trying to capture the feeling of Hitman Contracts. It was very dark, but it feels too dull overall considering this was made after Blood Money came out, which was a game that was much more bright and had much different settings and felt fresh all the time. Overall, it's an alright movie, I guess. It's not a Hitman movie, and as I said before, if this was a series over a longer amount of time and I could get invested in the plot, I might be interested, but this lacks the true Hitman experience fans were looking for. Overall, it's a movie. You might like it, you might not. It's not something I'm going to particularly recommend, and if you need to get your Hitman fix, this might be something to watch if that's something that you absolutely care about.
I don't give a fuck.
Alright, excellent. We've talked about all the Hitman movies. My name is David Cottrell. I'm the Commissioner, and thank you for watching. Basically, that's all I can say because there's nothing else that exists out there. Oh my god, not this one. Anything but this one. Please, for the love of God, anything. I can't do this without a drink. I'll be right back. I'll just hold on. Oh, God. Oh, this one. Okay, we're gonna have to strap in for this one. Can I just sum it up the best way using a Hitman 2007 clip? Because I think that would just summarize everything so much more easily of what your state of mind will be while watching this.
Asleep.
Let me just say, this movie isn't just bad in the terms of execution. It's bad in its plot. It's bad in how the story is going through. It's somehow a movie filled with all this, like, stereotypical action and somehow manages to be the most boring thing that I've ever watched. In fact, it reminds me of that scene from Ferris Bueller, basically, where all the kids are basically bored out of their minds listening to Voodoo Economics and him taking attendance. I felt like that. I was reaching for my phone, I was typing on the computer, I was trying to do anything other than watch this stupid film because it's just so bad, and I'll get into the details of it. I guess I have to do it. I promised you that I'd look into it or I'd review it just to save you from this atrocity. And spoiler alert, I'm gonna ruin this movie for you, so if you don't want to know about it, then you should log off now, but you don't even need to watch this because it's a stupid movie to begin with, and it's stupid. So to understand this movie, we first have to look kind of a little bit back at the games. Now, all the other movies previously, the only movie previously was kind of based on the material that was available, but in 2012, Hitman Absolution came out, providing a vast story. It was actually a very good story, in my opinion, and as well, the voice acting was very well done. However, a lot of people didn't like that game because it didn't play the same way as a Hitman game usually does. It wasn't as free-flowing, it was a little bit more linear, and a lot of the features that made Hitman a great game were kind of taken out of that. And that being said, The story for the game was good. I enjoyed that story. Again, the gameplay, totally different than a Hitman game, but that's not really the point. The point is, for this 2015 movie, I feel like they really tried to adapt it from the 2012 game because that actually had a pretty solid plot behind it. And it fails on all the fronts because it's not even interesting. I don't know what is with this movie, but it basically is trying to make a statement like this.
I'm better. Say it.
You're not.
In regards to the adaptation of the plot, I swear to God, I think somebody just like played part of Hitman Absolution, maybe the demo, I don't know what it is, but then saw a few scenes from it and said, oh, this will go well in a movie, and then they made this movie. A lot of things just don't make any sense in terms of the game to the movie. It's mainly action oriented. There's no real particular stealth element to it or any sort of sneaking. This is some dumb disguise changes which don't even work in the end. So it's just not well executed from, I guess it's from the Absolution game onto the screen, because the screen just turns it into basically everybody explodes, which is just not what Hitman is usually about. Don't get me wrong, Hitman games have their fair share of action, but not to this level at all. So let me ruin the plot for you so you can save yourself from self-harm. Just an interesting note here, the director who made this movie didn't actually do any movies before this and hasn't done a movie since. It's actually his only filmography credit on IMDb, so if that helps you stay away from this, then please take that as my fun fact to save you time in your life. So let me just go through the plot real quick. Basically, 47 is a superhuman, same thing as before. He's created by a geneticist that gets all guilty about making the clones, so I guess everybody wants to hunt him down, but they can't find him, so they are trying to find his daughter, because then they can get him out of hiding. And 47 in the beginning apparently wants to kill the daughter for some reason. And while this is all while this call center manager from something called the Syndicate wants to basically take her for their own uses. I don't know if it's to bait him out only or if it's because they know that she's a genetic modification as well. But basically, I'm just telling you right now, this is going to get stupider. So this girl is Katia, and she's actually very much like the girl from Hitman Absolution. And I feel like that's kind of where they got a lot of their plot points from. But she's very similar in the sense that she also has some sort of superhuman powers. Why it's not really explained how she can actually have these powers, even though she's just genetically modified. But she can also be telepathic or something. She can see around her with like hyper awareness, and she can see into the future. I don't know. It's not really clear or explained on how it works, but basically John Smith, who is obviously from the start a bad guy, I don't know how you can just tell. You can just feel it in your bones basically that he's bad, but he tells her that 47 is trying to kill her and he'll protect her, and he does the stupidest things ever to protect her, like going to an embassy and firing a gun off as if the guards wouldn't shoot him right then and there, or just, I don't know, run in and get arrested. None of it really makes much sense how the thought process is, but basically he's trying to protect her. They hide in this hotel room after getting into the embassy or something like that, and then they try to start explaining the plot, and she brings up this stupid map which basically shows how the movie was put together, just in a whole messy cavalcade of dumb ideas. Then 47 captures her and tells her how she's actually genetically modified, and I know I said that the guy, that her father was actually guilty, so he quit the program, but for some weird reason made her superhuman as well. And then 47 puts her through some dumb tutorial level while he dresses as a pilot to exit an airport. I, again, don't know what the point of it was. He's seen off screen. It's all of her level, basically. And, oh, don't forget, Smith has some absurd body armor that's now his skin or something. Again, it's not explained. It just is. Just be quiet. They find her father, who eventually gets captured, and this stupid scene occurs because why not? Eventually, Agent 47 crashes a helicopter into the call center with Katia inside of it. I don't know why this was a good idea, but basically it was so he could sneak in as a firefighter I guess it's a nod to the game, the Hitman 2 game, where you could sneak in as well, but I don't know. It's a stupid plan to begin with, and you just have to go with it. Then they shoot people. Smith turns into boring rooftop ending. Kadia's father blows himself up. Then 47 explains that basically everything that happened in the movie was planned. How convenient. And then a more realistic looking Agent 48, because he looks a hell of a lot better than 47 actually does. He's actually more bald somehow. Comes up to kill them, and then they shoot him in the end. And actually the whole Electro scene happens like mid-credit, but thank God that they're not going to make any more of this or a sequel to this, because it just didn't make any sense. And everything was just kind of glossed over, or the exposition that they used was just so very generic and just being like, oh, your father's a geneticist and he's go here, there. I don't know. Point is that it's not a good movie. I'm trying to make that point to you. I'm trying to ruin this. I'm trying to make this review as bad as possible so you never watch this stupid movie.
Don't put your faith in me. You'll be disappointed.
Another issue that I definitely had with this movie is it doesn't seem to quite know what it's trying to be. As I said before, the director had only done one movie previously and hasn't done one since. And it's so mixed up with its pacing, because at one point it's trying to be like this kind of action-y film, but almost like a superhero film with this whole titanium armor and everyone's kind of superhuman. Again, it's not really explained how all this happens with all these different characters. And on the other hand, it does this thing where it's trying to be like some sort of Pulp Fiction. And then on the other hand, it's trying to be some sort of Matrix. Or it's trying to reference Watchmen. Again, the movie's just all over the place, and I don't quite understand what was trying to be achieved by it. If it was supposed to just be nods to these movies, or I think it just was more because they ran out of ideas and they just kind of watched a movie and said, well, it happened there and it seemed to be pretty iconic, so let's try it here. It just doesn't work because you just don't know what you're really watching in the end. As for the characters themselves, I mean, there's not much to say about them. They're fairly basic, and there's really nothing outstanding about who they are or what they do or anything like that. They're quite forgettable, and even though they go through kind of exposition and talking about a lot of stuff, I just found that even when they're talking, they just didn't make it seem convincing, didn't make it seem interesting. In fact, there was only one particular scene that I found very interesting in this movie, and kind of reminded me of when I used to do this. Okay, I know what you're thinking. There must be some sort of action in this. It can't be a boring film. And there is a lot of action in this, but in a really boring sense. It's all very predictable, and it feels like you've seen it before. Like I mentioned, this film almost references stuff from other films, so it feels very redundant and repetitive and not even as well done as you've seen in other films. There's car chases, there's a lot of shooting, explosions, helicopters crashing into call centers. I mean, it's fine, I guess, if that's kind of your ADHD fix, but overall, I mean, the action just wasn't very interesting, and it was almost not even as good as Transformers. At least Transformers is just an adrenaline rush through and through. You might not understand what the hell's going on in that movie, but through this movie, it just is boring. It just doesn't work, and can we just not do this anymore? Just don't watch it. Please, stop. If there's one thing to get out of both of these movies being made, and especially this last one, it's that Agent 47 cannot be the protagonist. He has to be the antagonist, because it just doesn't work. It just doesn't translate on film. 2 attempts have been made, and I just don't see a third attempt doing the exact same route being the way to go. In this film, like I said, they completely made him opposite. He is very machine-like, and that's great. Great for the actors portraying Agent 47 as that very ruthless contract killer. However, in the 2001, that's when they tried humanizing him. Didn't really work out very well, but in the end, both portrayals don't really work out very well for the film, and I think it's just time that we start seeing him as the actual antagonist. on film at least. In the games, it's fun to play on because you can kind of choose whether you want to be a protagonist or an antagonist. You can go on a killing spree, or you can just play it normally as it should be in silent assassin mode. You were never there. And I'm still going to play the games. They are amazing. Ignore the film, the 2015 film at least. If you're going to have to watch one of them, do the 2007 one. Please ignore the 2015 one because it will sully your image of 47, and it will forever stain your memory, and this is time that you will never get back. So, if anything, watch the one with Timothy Olyphant. It's at least a better portrayal and a better plot behind it, rather than this piece of trash. I can't do this anymore. I need to end this. So, thank you, though, so much for watching. And we will be doing more movie adaptations, and you will get to see me suffer a little bit more. So thank you so much for allowing me to be tortured by some of these awful, awful movies. Anyways, I'm the Commissioner. Thank you so much for watching. If you aren't already, make sure to follow us to get any sort of updates. We are always doing shows all the time, so stay tuned for that. And let's get back right to it.
For that look at the Hitman 2007 movie. Hitman has never really been a series of mine that I've enjoyed. I've looked at it and it's been interesting, but it's not one that I've really played. But I know that there are a lot of Hitman fans out there, so it's great to at least take a look here at the movies, and we'll make sure to keep looking forward to your movie reviews. That is going to actually just about wrap it up for us here at GNN once again for this week. Again, we want to make sure that you bring out the information and the knowledge that you have. So if you have anything you want to send to us and make sure that you want to get here on GNN, please send it over to info@nesthq.online. We'll make sure that we do everything we can to work with you to get your information, your projects here up on GNN, as well as if you have any major plays of the week. I know there's a lot of new patches being released for various competitive games, so if you want to bring your plays up here on the big screen, send them over again to info@nesthq.online. And we'll make sure we put them up here to show the world your place. So for everybody here at GNN, for Richard, for David, for the boys at Project Supervillain and Arc Drifter and Kill Boss, it's Joker once again thanking you for tuning in this week to GNN. We'll see you next week.